The FIFA World Cup is normally a time that football fans look forward to because it's a massive celebration of the sport on the world stage. So you look forward to seeing the biggest stars in the game playing for their countries and hopefully getting to take home that coveted golden trophy. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that the tournament is always a bed of roses. In fact, more often than not, a lot of these tournaments can actually end up having a number of controversial moments, whether small, big, or otherwise. Today, we at Sports Today are actually going to look forward to not just one, not two, three, four, but 5 controversial moments and rank them according to the nature of the controversy that they generated at that given point of time and how relevant it is to the modern sport. So without further ado, let's just quickly look at the 5 major controversies, and don't forget, the order in which we're going is the order in which that they are ranked. So at number 5, we have, of course, a pretty recent example, the Battle of Nuremberg, or the round of 16 match between Portugal and Netherlands. Now, this was one of those matches that people had no idea how it became as violent as it did. Well, actually, people did have an idea. It's because the referee in question didn't have any semblance of control on the match from the first whistle itself. What makes it a little surprising, however, is the fact that the match was between Portugal and Netherlands. They're not exactly traditional rivals in any sense of the word, whether that be from a sporting perspective or from a political perspective. There were no tensions yet, because round of 16 matches can often be slightly on the edge affairs. This time around, that's exactly what happened, and to make things worse, the referee couldn't actually clamp down on the action as quickly as he would have possibly liked to. And as a result, he had to issue a world record 16 yellow cards in that match, as well as 4 red cards. That means 4 players were sent off and there were 16 yellow cards in total dished out. Oh, and as for the scoreline, Portugal ended up winning 1-0. But no one really remembers that about the match now. In fact, most people only remember the fact that they constantly got violent on a very regular basis and that the referee had no control on the matter. In fact, afterwards, then FIFA President Sepp Blatter said that the referee should have actually given himself a yellow card for such a poor performance. At number 4, we have another very infamous moment, or rather a combination of moments that actually are kind of conjoined at the hip if you think about it. It is, of course, the 2002 World Cup and, refereeing decisions going the way of then host nation South Korea. Now, everyone remembers the fact that South Korea made it all the way to the semis, and it was seen, or celebrated rather, in and around the Asian parts of the world as like a massive accomplishment, which, to be fair, it very much was. However, there's just one small problem with that. Hindsight has not made that run to the semis look good at all, especially due to the fact that two of the referees in their 2 of their matches actually ended up having to retire due to allegations of both match fixing as well as receiving presents, including a car, to help South Korea ease through to the semi-finals. Now, both of those instances are widely remembered, but perhaps the one that's remembered more often was, of course, the quarterfinal match against Italy, where Italy had not only a perfectly good goal disallowed, but also a blatant penalty that wasn't given, and therefore the match ended 1-1 in extra time, and South Korea ended up winning it due to, of course, the golden goal rule, because they scored the first goal thereafter. Italy were out, and it was a massive controversy. In fact, one of the South Korean players actually ended up getting barred from playing for his Italian club after that. Such was the feeling of animosity towards the South Koreans from the people of Italy. Now, while you can say that that's a bit of an overreaction because that player probably really had nothing to do with it, it does actually showcase just how controversial and just how hairy things can get, especially when it comes on getting involved to things that are as blatant as match fixing. At number 3, we have a moment that a lot of modern fans might not remember, but which was very, very controversial at that point and is still, in fact, talked about in football circles. I'm referring to the Battle of Santiago in 1962. Now, for those of you who don't know, the 1962 World Cup was held in Chile, and this was it was a knockout fixture between Chile and Italy. Now, again, you'd be thinking Chile and Italy have no rivalry whatsoever, and you'd be correct, but there was a bit of an issue at that point that the city of Santiago a few years prior had a massive earthquake which had actually led to a lot of destruction in the city. And there were 2 Italian journalists who actually disparaged the city at the time when they were going through the tragedy. So to say that Chilean emotions were at a high for this particular encounter would be something of an understatement. And bear in mind, this match happened in 1962, yet there were 3 players sent off, 2 of the Italians and 1 of the players from Chile. 3 players sent off at a time when the red card and yellow card rule did not even properly exist. In fact, this was at a time when even substitutions weren't allowed. Yet the match got so violent as it went on. In fact, just about 2 minutes in, one of the Chilean players ended up punching one of the Italians. And then a few minutes later, by around the 12th minute, that same player was shown a red card. He refused to walk off the pitch and in fact actually had to be escorted away by police. And to make things even more wild, when you think about that match, it is worth remembering that there were 3 other instances that the police had to intervene to actually restore some semblance of order to the match. It was so violent and it was so out of control that the referees had to send off 3 people. And again, back then the red card rule didn't exist, so you had to do something really bad to actually get sent off. In fact, back in those days, players would often play on injured because the substitute rule didn't exist. So you really had a lot of leeway. So imagine just how bad things were. The 3 players still managed to get sent off. At number 2, we have a moment that England fans will probably best end up not wanting to remember, but which of course we must revisit because it is a very controversial moment. Now, everyone remembers that England won their one and only World Cup on home soil in 1966, and everyone remembers the fact that they beat the Germans 4-2 on extra time in that final encounter. Now, what a lot of people don't remember, especially if you're a casual football fan, is that the match went into extra time. England it was a 2-2 at that point, and England ended up scoring the 3rd goal courtesy of Geoff Hurst, who you remember got a hat-trick in that match. But was it really a goal? Probably not, because if you look at the videos that actually are circulating nowadays, you realize that it wasn't a goal, but it was given anyway. Now, what happened was that Geoff Hurst ended up shooting very hard. The ball hit the crossbar, it bounced back down, and it then went out for a goal kick. So the referee was not sure, however, whether the ball had actually bounced inside the goal line or outside of the goal line. In fact, he was leaning towards giving it as a goal kick because the ball had rolled out and it was not very conclusive whether it had crossed the line. But the linesman who was there, and the linesman was a referee from the Soviet Union, he said that no, the ball had crossed the line, you should give it a goal, and thus the goal was given. Now, that goal remains controversial to this date because most people say, and generally I tend to concur, that it wasn't actually a goal, but it was given regardless because the linesman made what was a very infamous judgment call and also a very wrong one too. England would go on to win 4-2, but the Germans would end up having the last laugh in many ways when Frank Lampard's goal in similar circumstances was disallowed in 2010, only this time the ball had actually crossed the line. Oh well, moving on, of course, in the list and on to number 1. Did you really think it was going to be anything else? Of course it had to be the hand of God. How can we forget about this little bit of mischief from Maradona that remains enshrined in the football lexicon to this very day? Now, if you haven't heard this story, well, it was the knockout rounds of the FIFA World Cup 1986. Argentina would go on to win that tournament, of course, but in the quarterfinals, they had to face England. And Diego Maradona, in that very match, scored 2 goals that till this date are widely talked about, one for the right reasons and one for the wrong reasons. Let's look at the one which he scored for the wrong reasons, and it was in fact the opener of that match. Now, it was a cross lumped into the box, and it was a hopeful cross because one, it was being sent to Maradona, never the tallest guy in the world. But as you can see in this image, he leaps high and his hand actually ended up making contact with the ball, and it was deliberate. He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew that Shilton would outjump him and would punch the ball away. So what he did was, before Shilton could punch it, he punched it over him. The ball went over Shilton, crept into the goal line, and the goal was actually given. Now, Maradona, being as cheeky as he was actually celebrating the goal with his fist held aloft like this, and had to be told by one of his teammates who could see it was a handball that, look, don't do that, you might just arise some suspicions. The English players protested, but the goal was actually given. Now, the second goal, of course, which was here, was the one where he dribbled past 5 players. Masterful goal, but they won 2-0, and of course, as I always said, one of the most controversial goals. And you can't really even call it a goal because, to be fair, if the rules were followed to the T, the referee had figured that out. That was being ruled out for handball. And in fact, afterwards, Maradona coined that very infamous phrase where he said that, look, I know I did it with my hand, but it was a little bit the hand of Maradona and a little bit of the hand of God. And that is and remains for me the most controversial moment of the World Cup, not just due to, of course, the fact that it gave Argentina or helped Argentina get that victory, but because till date, people cannot stop talking about it and it remains as relevant as ever in the modern day and age. And that's our list. Do you have any other FIFA controversial moments which you think we may have missed out on and could probably make a second list out of? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and tap that bell icon so you know when we're going live or uploading a new video for you guys. Then you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram as well. Thank you all once again for joining us. As always, I've been Shane Dias. I hope to see you with us through the day and through the duration of the FIFA World Cup and beyond. But for now, goodbye.